I will never forget the way the candles flickered on that cake. 20. 5 little flames danced across the chocolate surface, a warm glow bathing the room in a soft golden light. My family, my husband Richard, and our 2 children, Lily and James, stood around me, their faces hidden behind practiced smiles. It was supposed to be my day, my birthday, a celebration of love and togetherness. But even before I blew out the candles, I felt something shift in the air, a chill that no amount of firelight could warm. Richard handed me a sleek white envelope. "Open it," he said, his voice steady but cold, as though he were presenting me with a business contract rather than a gift. Lily and James, both in their early 20s, avoided my eyes. My fingers trembled as I tore through the thick paper, expecting maybe a heartfelt letter or a surprise vacation. Instead, what spilled out was a set of divorce papers. My heart stopped. I looked up, searching for an explanation. This must be some kind of joke," I stammered. But Richard's expression didn't soften. His eyes were sharp, calculating. "It's not a joke," he said, flatly. "It's time we move on. The mansion, the company, the accounts, they'll stay with us. You'll be taken care of, but you're no longer part of this family's future." The room began to spin. The man I had built a life with for 25 years, the children I had carried and nurtured, were now united against me. My mind flashed through memories. Nights rocking babies to sleep, years of sacrifice to build our family business, the countless times I'd put their needs before my own. And this was my reward. Betrayal, cold and deliberate, delivered on the day meant to celebrate my existence. I tried to speak, but my voice broke. "Why? What did I do to deserve this?" Richard didn't flinch. "It's not about what you did. It's about what we want. The business needs fresh leadership. The kids agree. We've decided this is best for everyone." Lily bit her lip, tears threatening, but she said nothing. James stared at the floor, his jaw tight. They had chosen their side. That night, after the guests had left and the mansion grew silent, I sat alone in the grand dining room, the remnants of the birthday cake mocking me from the table. My world had been ripped apart in a single evening. I wanted to scream, to rage, to demand justice, but what good would it do? My husband, a skilled businessman and lawyer, had planned every detail. The papers were airtight. The house, the wealth, the company, everything was legally his. For weeks, I wandered in a haze of disbelief. I moved into a small rental apartment, a far cry from the marble halls of the mansion. Friends I thought I could count on disappeared, unwilling to take sides. At night, I cried into my pillow until my eyes burned. During the day, I forced myself to breathe, to eat, to simply exist. I replayed every moment of my marriage, wondering where I had gone wrong. The hardest part wasn't losing the money or the house. It was losing my children. Lily and James rarely called. When they did, their words were stiff, as though they were speaking to a distant relative. I had been their mother, their confidante, their protector. Now I was an outsider, a ghost haunting the edges of their new life. But somewhere deep inside, a spark refused to die. One cold morning, I stood before the mirror and saw not a broken woman, but a survivor. Richard might have taken the business, but he hadn't taken my mind, my talents, or my will to fight. I realized that for years, I had allowed my identity to revolve around being a wife and mother. I had forgotten who I was before I became Mrs. Claire Benson. It was time to remember. I started small. I found a job at a local cafe, pouring coffee and wiping tables. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. The first paycheck, though modest, felt like a victory. It was money I had earned on my own. I began taking online courses in marketing and finance, skills I had once used to help Richard grow the business, but never claimed as my own. Slowly, I built a new network of friends, people who valued me not for my wealth, but for my heart. The road wasn't easy. There were nights when loneliness threatened to swallow me whole, when I longed for the warmth of my children's embrace. There were moments when fear whispered that I would never recover, that I was destined to live the rest of my life in quiet bitterness. But with every challenge came a small triumph, a promotion at work, a kind word from a stranger, the joy of discovering my own strength. 2 years passed. I had saved enough to open a small marketing consultancy, using the very skills Richard had once dismissed as support work. To my astonishment, the business flourished. Clients appreciated my sharp mind and compassionate approach. For the first time in decades, I wasn't living in someone else's shadow. Then, one rainy afternoon, Lily showed up at my office. She looked older, her eyes tired. She said softly, "Can we talk?" We sat together, the silence between us heavy with years of regret. Lily's voice trembled as she confessed. "Manipulated us, he made it sound like you were holding us back." I was scared. I didn't know how to fight him. Tears streamed down her face. I took her hand, my heart aching. "I missed you every single day," I whispered. James came a few weeks later, his apology just as raw. They had seen through their father's lies, realizing too late the price of their betrayal. Richard, it turned out, had run the family company into debt, his ambition blinding him to the dangers. The mansion, the business, the wealth, they were crumbling. For a moment, anger surged within me. Part of me wanted to gloat, to remind them of the pain they'd caused. But I chose a different path. I forgave them, not for their sake, but for mine. Holding on to bitterness would only chain me to the past I had fought so hard to escape. Richard never came to me. Pride was his prison. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he had lost almost everything. But I no longer cared. My wealth wasn't measured in dollars or marble floors. It was in the freedom I had gained, the love I had rediscovered, and the woman I had become. Today, as I sit in my modest but cozy home, I look back on that fateful birthday not with sorrow, but with gratitude. The day my world collapsed was the day I was reborn. I learned that true wealth isn't in mansions or bank accounts. It's in self-worth, resilience, and the courage to rise after you've been broken. If you're listening to this and feel like life has betrayed you, hear me now. You are stronger than you think. You can start over, no matter your age, no matter how deep the wounds. Sometimes the worst endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. My birthday once brought me divorce papers. Today, it brings me peace, purpose, and a freedom I never thought I'd find. And that, I've learned, is the greatest gift of all.